6:16, September 10, 2000. Barras village wakes under a wet heat already pushing past 30 degrees. Rotor blades cut low through jungle canopy. 3 Chinooks and 2 lynx skim above trees where visibility collapses to 8 meters. On the ground, 6 British soldiers have been held for 25 days by 400 to 500 armed men, many drunk, many unpredictable, all waiting. Records say negotiation is the only option. Risk assessments reject an assault. 16 days pass. Nothing changes. Then the aircraft flare. Ropes drop. Men descend. 10 minutes and 27 seconds later, all 6 hostages are alive. 627 seconds erase 25 days. Time breaks here. Records confirm the Westside Boys emerged from the fractures of Sierra Leone's civil war in 1998, consolidating between 400 and 500 fighters across the Accra Hills. The area under their control stretched beyond immediate response range, reinforced with heavy machine guns, rocket-propelled grenades, and 82mm mortars. On August 25, 2000, 11 Royal Irish Rangers on routine patrol were intercepted. 5 local soldiers were released. 6 British personnel remained. Negotiations extended across 16 days. Approximately 128 hours of dialogue yielded no further releases. Post-assessment from London indicated a rising probability of execution if conditions persisted. Diplomatic channels remained active. Results did not. Before dawn on September 10, the jungle holds its heat. 32 degrees at first light. Air thick enough to slow breath. Visibility reduced to less than 8 meters under layered canopy. The helicopters approach low, almost scraping the treetops, engines suppressed by distance until the final seconds. Inside, there is no conversation. No digital mapping. GPS is unreliable under dense foliage. Radio traffic is minimal. Each man carries memorized terrain sketches built from 9 days of silent reconnaissance flights that pretended to be routine patrols. They move before the ground understands what is happening. 2 assault elements split in motion. 1 toward Barras, where the hostages are held. 1 toward Magbini, where resistance will form. There is no expectation of surprise. The enemy maintains sentries around the clock. Radios pass constant updates. Any delay becomes warning. Boots hit dirt. Rotor wash tears through leaves and loose soil. Shapes appear through green darkness. Distance collapses instantly. Seconds matter now. Not minutes. Not hours. They advance at a pace that denies reaction. No pauses. No corrections. Every movement pre-decided. Every second accounted for. Then, just before first contact fully unfolds, there is a fraction of stillness. Breathing slows. The count begins. Staff Sergeant R. D. Squadron, 22nd SAS, stands slightly forward in the aircraft bay, knees loose to absorb the vibration. His left hand rests on the sling without gripping it. No tension wasted. His eyes move once across the men, then stop. He has already counted them. He always does. No correction after that. He has seen this pattern before. Not the place. Not the enemy. The pattern. Compression of time until everything reduces to the next 3 seconds. He does not rehearse outcomes. He rehearses entry. The first 4 seconds matter. The bodyguard must fall before sound becomes meaning. The ramp drops. Heat floods in. He moves. Boots hit ground. He does not look for confirmation. The structure is where it should be. The doorway is where it should be. A figure turns. Weapon halfway raised. He fires once. Then again. 4 seconds pass. Behind his plate carrier, inside a small sealed pocket, there is a folded photograph he has not looked at in months. He is aware of it for a fraction of a second. Then it is gone. He advances. No hesitation remains. Miles away, under a canvas roof stretched over a temporary operations table, a United Nations liaison officer sits with a pen held just above paper. His posture is straight. His voice, when he spoke minutes earlier, was measured. Controlled. The 9th negotiation session is scheduled for that morning. Draft language has already been prepared. Concessions outlined. Escalation avoided. Radio traffic interrupts before the meeting begins. He listens. The transmission is short. Words arrive without context. Operation complete. Then numbers. Then confirmation of hostages recovered. His pen does not move. For a moment, his hand remains suspended above the page, as if waiting for the rest of a sentence that no longer exists. The timeline in his head does not match what he is hearing. 16 days had wait. Process. Sequence. This has none of those things. He lowers the pen slowly. The ink leaves a single mark where it touches the paper, unintended. No further notes are taken. Records show 16 days of structured negotiation produced 5 releases. All were Sierra Leone nationals. 6 British soldiers remained in captivity as conditions degraded. Approximately 128 hours were spent in controlled dialogue, each session documented, each concession reviewed across multiple layers. United Nations assessments advised against direct assault. Risk projections exceeded acceptable thresholds. The timeline extended. Outcomes did not. In parallel, a smaller force prepared under a different logic. 9 days of reconnaissance flights mapped entry points under the cover of routine movement. No formal escalation chains delayed execution. No extended approval cycles reshaped intent. Fewer than 30 operators rehearsed a single sequence. Time on target was calculated in seconds, not phases. At 6:16, they acted. Insertion to first contact measured in moments. Engagement to control of Barry Bonnet compressed into minutes. Total operational duration, 10 minutes and 27 seconds. 6 hostages extracted alive. 25 Westside Boys killed in the exchange. Their commander, Fode Calais, captured. 1 SAS soldier killed. 1 wounded. 2 systems approached the same problem. 1 extended time to reduce risk and produce diminishing returns. 1 reduced time to 0 and absorbed the risk directly. 1 waited for conditions to improve. 1 moved before they worsened. The ratio stands unchanged. 128 hours for 5 releases. 627 seconds for 6. And 1 man buried. Ministry of Defense Report, 2002, classifies the operation as a time-critical hostage rescue model adopted for training across NATO structures. The conclusion is narrow and technical. Speed replaced layered authorization. Precision depended on pre-collected intelligence rather than evolving negotiation. No excess language surrounds it. Royal United Services Institute analysis, 2001, isolates reconnaissance accuracy as the decisive variable. 9 days of aerial observation, disguised as routine patrol, produced targeting confidence sufficient to remove hesitation at the point of contact. The report notes a direct correlation between compressed decision cycles and successful extraction outcomes. United Nations after-action review records a different tone. It states that the diplomatic timeline was incompatible with the deteriorating condition of the hostages. The phrasing remains controlled. The implication does not. Process continued after viability declined. British Foreign Office internal communication confirms that by day 14, no diplomatic pathway remained actionable. Negotiation persisted beyond its effective window. At trial in late 2000, Fode Calais described the moment of assault in a single sentence. They arrived before we heard anything. Survivors from his group repeat the same sequence. No warning. No time to organize resistance. Visual contact occurred at the same moment as impact. Both sides record the same fact. There was no interval to react. By 2002, the lesson is no longer debated. It is written into doctrine. NATO training materials remove layers from hostage rescue protocols. Time is no longer treated as a buffer. It is treated as a target. Approval chains are shortened. Authority is pushed downward to the unit already in position. Between 2003 and 2005, United States Special Operations units restructure their response models. Internal directives reduce authorization windows from 72 hours to less than 4. Decision-making is no longer reserved for distant command structures. It is placed with the team that sees the target. The language changes quietly. Delay becomes liability. In one recorded operation during this transition period, a team leader receives confirmation of hostage movement through a compound. Under previous doctrine, the request for action would move upward, passing through multiple command levels, consuming hours. Instead, he decides within seconds. Entry is immediate. Doors are breached before higher command acknowledges the request. The target does not relocate. Hostages are extracted alive. The difference is measured in minutes. Minutes that did not exist before. By 2009, Joint Special Operations Command formalizes the shift. Field leaders are authorized to act without multi-layer clearance when conditions match predefined criteria. The system does not disappear. It compresses. It adapts to the speed of reality. In May 2011, the principle reaches its clearest form. A compound in Abbottabad. 40 minutes from insertion to exit. No request sent upward once the operation begins. No delays inserted into the sequence. The objective is completed before any external system could have altered it. Speed becomes doctrine. 627 seconds once sounded like an anomaly. A number too small to matter against 16 days of structured effort. Now it sits inside doctrine, unspoken but present, shaping how decisions are made when time begins to collapse. The lesson carries beyond one jungle, beyond one war. Systems expand to manage risk. Layers are added to prevent failure. But as conditions deteriorate, structure becomes weight. The window narrows. The cost of waiting rises without announcement. Time can be extended with resources and process. But the moment action is required, only those already inside the problem can pay the price it demands. 16 days of control. 627 seconds of decision. Which one do you trust when the clock runs out? Tell us below.